Okay, today's video, we are going to be working on rotations on the coordinate plane. So I had the SL in translation to remind you of a slide, and in reflections, we have the FL to remind you to flip. And the only thing I can really come up with on rotations is the O just reminds you that you're going to spin. So you're going to spin this around. So you're kind of going around. So I kind of just put like a little arrow, I guess, on the O. So a rotation is when we spin or turn a shape on the coordinate plane. So we are going to turn a shape on the coordinate plane. So that's what happens when we rotate something. All right. So let's just start by talking a little bit about on the coordinate plane, the quadrants and what clockwise and counterclockwise mean. So when we rotate, we're only going to be doing 90-degree rotations, 180-degree rotations, or 270-degree rotations. Okay? All right, so first thing I want to do is to draw a X and Y coordinate plane. All right. So what we're going to be doing is rotating clockwise and counterclockwise. So I am going to say that I start right here with my shape. So let's say this is my original right here. If I go clockwise, clockwise means going around to the right. So it's the way the clock moves. So if you glance at a clock and you follow the hands of a clock, they move this direction. So that's what clockwise is. And we abbreviate clockwise as CW. So if I am going to take this star right here and rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, so that's 90 degrees CW, it's going to end up in this quadrant. All right. If I take that same star and rotate it 180 degrees, it's like going 2 90s, so it's going to end up right there. So that's 180 degrees clockwise. And then if I take this star and rotate it 3 quadrants over, so there it goes, 1, 2, 3 quadrants over, that's going to be 70 degrees clockwise. All right, so let's make another one and talk about counterclockwise. So let me label this as clockwise rotations. All right, so now over here, I'm going to start with same idea. So I'm going to draw an XY to make my coordinate plane. Now remember, since this is a video, if I'm going too fast, you can just pause and then catch up and then start the video going again. Okay, so let's say on this side, I'm going to start in the same spot. Okay, so here's my starting point right there. Now, if I go 90 degrees counterclockwise, counterclockwise means the opposite direction of a clock. All right, so if I go 90 degrees, that's going to shift one quadrant the opposite direction. So we call this counterclockwise. Okay. If I take that same starting point, if I go 2 quadrants over, that means 90 and 90. So that would be a 180-degree counterclockwise rotation. And if I go 3 quadrants over, that's 90, 90, and 90, which would be 270 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to start with our object, and we're going to be told whether we are going to go clockwise or counterclockwise, which means the opposite. So counterclockwise. So that means the opposite direction of a clock. And depending on which one we go, then we know if it's a 90-degree rotation, we're going to go 1 quadrant over. If it's a 180-degree rotation, we're going to go 2 quadrants over. And if it's 270-degree rotation, we're going to go 3 quadrants over. All right, so let's talk about what happens to our actual point. So if we go clockwise or counterclockwise, 90 degrees or 270 degrees. Okay, so we're going to talk about those two. So we're going to hold off on the 180. That one's special. So if we go 90 degrees or 270 degrees, so let me write this down. So if we go 90 degrees or 270 degrees, rotations, either way. So if we rotate 90 or 180 degrees, then we need to switch the X and Y. Okay, so if we go 90 degrees or a 270 degree rotation, we have to switch the X and the Y. Then what we're going to do is look at the ordered pairs in that quadrant. So then after we switch them, then we're going to use the positive, negative, or negative, positive, or positive, positive, or negative, negative for the quadrant. So use that for the new quadrant. Okay? All right. But if it's a 180-degree rotation, all we're going to do, or what we're not going to do, is not switch them, and then we'll still use the new one. So for a 180-degree rotation, we do not switch. And then we're still going to follow the signs of the quadrant. All right, so these are our rules. So I'm going to kind of highlight this a little bit here because this is, and you'll understand and you'll get a little bit better at this as we keep going. So these are major rules for us with what we're doing. Okay, so let's try an example. So I am going to, let's do Trying to find a color I haven't used yet. All right. So let's say, for example 1, that I have the point 3, -7, and I want to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise. Okay, so it's a 90-degree clockwise rotation. So since it's 90 degrees, I know I need to switch these two numbers. Okay, so let's figure out, where are we starting? If we have the point 3, -7. So I'm just going to come over here and sketch a little X and Y. So the point 3, -7, where would that be on this graph? So 3, -7 is located down here. So this is my starting point. So I'm going to start right here. Okay? So these points down here are all positive, negative. All right, so now I'm going to rotate 90 degrees clockwise, which means that I'm going to go one quadrant the way the clock moves. So I'm going to move over here. So if I move this point over here, now my new point should be negative, negative. So if this point right here started at 3, -7, the first thing I'm going to do is switch the 3 and the 7. And since I'm going from positive, negative to negative, negative, I know that those are going to be the signs of my new point. So I switched the X and the Y numbers, and then I had to use the ordered pairs for my new location. All right, let's try one more. All right, so for example 2, okay, so I'm going to give you the point -4, -6. And let's do a 180 degrees counterclockwise rotation. All right, so I'm just going to sketch myself a little graph here. We don't have to be too fancy. So -4, -6 is going to start out in this quadrant right here. So this quadrant, oh, sorry, no, it's not. -4, -6 is starting in this quadrant right here. So this quadrant is negative, negative. All right, so I'm going to go 180 degree rotation. So counterclockwise means the opposite way the clock goes. So I'm going to go this direction. So 180 degrees means I need to go 2 quadrants over. So I'm going to go 1, 2 quadrants over. So this is where my new point is going to be. And the points in this quadrant are positive, positive. So since I did a 180 degree rotation, I'm not switching the numbers. So it's going to stay 4 and 6. But they're going to end up being positive, positive. So there's my answer right there. Okay, so we're going to do more practice, obviously, when you get in class. But again, what we're looking at is if we go 90 or 270, we have to switch the numbers and then pay attention to what quadrant we go and what the ordered pairs are for that quadrant.